All right.
So, previous weekend, Godzilla X Kong: The New Empire was still number one in its second weekend, though a 61% drop isn't an amazing outcome.
No, that's a pretty good dip there.
And if we look at its in the chart, it hasn't made a sperm whale a failure, which is where it has the tiny lower jaw beneath the trend line here on the
Yeah.
numbers, but it's definitely hugging the low end of the
Yeah.
projection.
Yeah.
I think that this is kind of the year of mediocre movies because it's kind of a similar tale with Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, where it sounds like it just had a not very inspiring, not very
Yeah.
inspiring script.
Right. Yeah. And yeah, it didn't they didn't utilize the stars as well as it should have, I guess, is from what I've heard.
Actually, yeah, like a lot of kind of uninspiring sequels. Godzilla X Kong sounds like it's basically what the first movie was,
Mm,
or first of the Godzilla and Kong movies, I should say.
yeah.
Um, Monkey Man came out to a $10 million opening. I've heard people liken it to why am I blanking? J- um, John Wick, but I
Oh,
don't. But I don't know anything about it really.
I believe Jordan Peele directed it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Um, yeah, Ninja says he heard it was a film focused on the kaiju fights instead of trying to focus on the human drama. Yeah, that makes
Which I mean, okay, so I've actually seen all of these MonsterVerse movies except for the 2014 Godzilla somehow.
hmm.
Um, and let me tell you, the human parts of the plot are always the worst parts of those movies
Yeah,
because they're either too goofy or they're too somber or they're just boring and you want more monsters to show up and punch each other.
yeah. Well, you know what's funny? You say that, but that Godzilla 2014, that's the only one I've seen of, of these.
What was really funny is that when I saw the second Godzilla movie, the one where they fight King Ghidorah and Mothra and Rodan shows up and is basically Megatron,
No.
before Ghidorah, like just bowing and scraping and like he doesn't say any words, but the body language is completely submissive.
Oh, yeah.
Uh, that one I actually gave that plot more or gave that movie more credit than I thought it deserves in retrospect because I had assumed that the human plot was like characters who had been established in the first movie. No, it was in a whole new cast. I
Yeah,
was like, oh, so they didn't really do much. Like didn't really develop them as much as they wanted to because they just didn't want to. Okay.
yeah. And it says only Kong Skull Island did the human drama well, being a sort of remake of the original. Ah, okay.
Yeah, I don't know if I would call that a remake of the original. I would say it's more like Kong with like some Apocalypse Now mixed in. Uh,
Uh,
or it's basically like the original if they never got back to New York.
oh, okay.
And it's set during Vietnam. So you have
Mm,
Samuel L. Jackson as a obsessed, like basically it's after they've been forced to flee South Vietnam, and so he and his soldiers are feeling defeated. And when they end up at this place, it's like he's like, I'm not losing again.
okay. Huh.
Yeah, you're right, Ninja. That's like the only one of those where the human plot was at all interesting.
Yeah.
Featured Loki and Captain Marvel.
Hmm.
Uh,
Oh.
Weirdly enough, they didn't have a romantic subplot, even though it felt like they should have. Uh, and also, Brie Larson just has this way of talking that is unfortunately kind of annoying, even though the character itself was fine.
Yeah. Oh, it was basically commentary on Vietnam, like Rambo.
Right. Yeah. But so yeah, basically it's like the polar opposite of Godzilla minus one,
Mm,
where it's like at least as far as I can tell from reviews and stuff I've heard. I haven't. I am probably going to see this at some point, but
mm,
just haven't bothered yet.
yeah.
Monkey Man. If that's a good opening or not, that is entirely dependent on the budget.
Yeah.
but it isn't great. Hopefully it has good word of mouth.
Hmm. Yeah. The
We
first
also
Omen.
The
Ooh.
first Omen opened. I heard good things about it, but it's
Yeah.
like a vegan hearing about a new steak shop. It's like I don't do horror, so sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, and it said Ninja says I find the MonsterVerse films being way more consistent in terms of quality. Film critics will never like them, but they're fun. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, okay, so it's like it's actually kind of like horror. There are some genres that critics just don't like because what the critic is looking for is somewhat objective markers of quality, where what the person who's going to shell out $15 to go see Godzilla and King Kong punch each other wants is Godzilla and King Kong to punch each other and possibly some new monsters.
Right. Yeah.
That's the experience they're after, and if the movie delivers that experience, then great.
Hmm.
Speaking of uninspiring sequels, Kung Fu Panda brings in brings up the rear in the top five. That 417 million internationally after more than a month.
Not bad.
Yeah, that's got to be yeah okay. An
85.
85 million dollar budget, and they're making a little bit of profit, but that's got to be disappointing compared to the other ones in the series.
Yeah, I think.
Uh,
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what the other ones. Let's see.
okay, wow, they made this one for less or for a little bit over half of what Kung Fu Panda 3 cost.
Wow.
They're trailing it a bit. That
Mm.
is interesting that they managed to shave the cost so much. I wonder if that was part of like they're moving the animation overseas.
Yeah, or the animation isn't quite as intricate and intent, and there isn't as much like effects in there as the other ones.
Okay, so unadjusted for inflation, domestically it is the second best at this stage in its box office life. It, if that $85 million production budget is accurate, this is definitely the best ROI of the series. Because
Uh,
wow.
y- yeah,
Well, okay then.
yeah,
This is why numbers are good.
yes,
Because then we aren't dealing with the world of opinions. That
yep,
comes later in the show.
yes,
Then we got a Fathom event showing of Someone Like You, which didn't actually
uh,
hear about this one.
I didn't either.
This looks like a pure romance story.
Uh,
Yeah, Ninja. Like the previous movies that were made like 10 years ago were having like $140 million budget. Which
yeah,
I'll
and
say
that.
we reviewed 3 recently. Like I saw that budget in places.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Let's see. Then we got Dune at number 6. That one's probably going to hang around for a while.
yeah. Hopefully, yeah, yeah. It's they haven't
Yep.
fallen into the trap of just dropping on an HBO Max right away.
Yep. Yeah. If they keep it off of there for a few more weeks, it'll probably hit 700.
Yeah.
Which it occurred to me if Inside Out 2 and Deadpool don't do well, I don't think we have another real contender for $1 billion movie this year.
Oh, yeah. Trying to think of if. Yeah, I can't think of any that would get close to that.
It certainly wasn't the American Society of Magical.
Nope.
Apparently, they've already pulled that from theaters. Technically, that was like a Fox Searchlight thing, which makes it a Disney movie. Um, rest of the top 10: Arthur the King. I'd say this one's like a mild flop, unless they made it really cheap.
Yeah.
Immaculate. That's the Nun one.
Yes, with Sydney Sweeney.
Mm. Yeah, still less than 15 million domestically after 3 weeks. But again, so apparently Sydney Sweeney is like Margot Robbie in that she decided the best way to make sure that she had roles to play was to start her own production company.
Uh that makes sense. Well, well, hopefully she doesn't get all anti-male gaze like Margot Robbie did.
Yeah, I'll be fair. If I was Margot Robbie and I'd shown as much of myself as I did in Wolf of
Um,
Wall Street, I'd probably and see people talk about me the same way that they did. Like,
yeah,
just to my knowledge, Miss Sweeney, the most that she has shown off is the
her boobs.
yes,
Yeah.
and and she seems to be quite comfortable with that so far, at least.
Yes. Yeah.
Then we've got Wicked Little Letters, which oh, okay, this I watched a review of on Film Threat. It sounded
Yeah.
like it was one of those boring British uh, comedy of manners movies.
Oh. Uh,
Also weirdly diverse for 1910 or 1920s London with like a black judge and things like that. But you'll notice when we reviewed Wonka, I didn't make one mention of that because I basically gave it the same forbearance that I would a Broadway production since it was basically a Broadway musical.
yeah. 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 I did too. Yeah. I mean, or even a high school, you know, musical production, because like with high schools, it's like, oh, you get whatever you take what you can get, in terms of
Right,
who can act.
right. You get and the same thing for like Broadway has a who's willing to perform on Broadway. You get who you get. So it's like,
Mhm.
you know what? I'm not going to mention this because it's not important. If
Yeah.
you're doing just like a straight movie, it's just like, mm,
Yeah.
kind of questionable.
Yeah.
So I'd say if we're looking at it from the top 10 with our perspective of, what's out there making money, what are we going to get more of? I actually don't know. I have this feeling we're not going to get more Ghostbusters at this rate.
No, which is unfortunate.
Because the
Uh,
last movie set them up to, take the franchise further. But if you have a bad script, you have a bad script.
mhm.
Um, we're probably going to get a Dune Part 3, I would think,
Yeah, yeah, I would think too. Yeah, it would probably be Dune Messiah is what they would do, which was the second book in the series.
right, with the jihad and everything.
Hmm.
But yeah, while things are healthier for the box office than they had been back in January and February and even most of March, it's still not amazing.
Nope.
Uh, some of these movies, like I get why they had to put out these movies when they did, just because they had already kicked them back due to the strikes last summer.
Yeah.
But dang, like some of these they probably should have waited till June.
Yes, they should have. Yeah. Yeah. Ghostbusters might have done better, if it had been a summer movie. And
Yep.
yeah, Ninja says apparently Dune Messiah covers the aftermath of it. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, that's when Paul becomes okay. Spoiler if you don't know anything about Dune, uh Paul becomes the emperor.
Gasp.
Yeah.